Welcome back to I'm Still Here. I'm Larry.
And I'm Heather. In 1998, at the age of 26, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It changed everything for us, but I'm still here. And
You are here for part 2 of our interviews.
Oh boy.
Of Who is Heather? So today we are, and by the way, Heather has no idea.
I'm
I
a little
love
nervous.
these because she can't prepare for this at all. So today we are going to be talking about pleasure and desire.
Oh boy.
Pleasure and desire. We're gonna find out a few things.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so starting out here, what challenges currently do you feel are negatively affecting your sex life? With just anything.
Wow, let's just jump in, man.
Cancer can be there, or any. I don't want to. Just what do you think?
What do I think?
Our challenges, not our roadblocks. Our challenges, or whatever. Anything
To my sex life?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Cancer definitely, I think, has had an impact on it. Mm-hmm. Mostly because, there's a lot of things. We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about some of that. Body image, for one thing. Just kind of that it has changed how I feel about my body. And I guess beyond body image, just the changes in my body, right? Loss of sensation. It just functions differently.
menopause
Menopause
because of the cancer treatment.
Because of the cancer.
Menopause. When was that?
In my 20s.
In your 20s.
Yeah. I was
Do they
26.
know how old you are?
I'm 50.
Oh, they know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If you've been around for a while, you know I'm 50. So yeah, menopause definitely plays a role. I think there's, just expectations in terms of, number one on my list is always just like living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond and then it's like, oh wait, I can actually think about what I want or what is, what would, feel good, all of that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of body type of things. Mm-hmm. The other thing would just be, I would say, kind of the way I was raised. Right?
Talk about that a little bit.
Raised in a church that was very, very conservative. When you read about all these evangelical people that, have made it, I knew all of them. That's what my upbringing was, and it was very much like men can't control themselves, women need to cover themselves. All of these messages of, women and girls need to be very proper, and sex was never talked about from a pleasure standpoint. Mm-hmm.
Sex was never talked about a lot at all.
No, it was just,
except for don't do it.
Just don't do it. Exactly. Yeah. And if you do it, that you're disappointing your future husband and, mm-hmm. Those type of things. So, I think there's a lot of that, mm-hmm. the messages that I got, in the way I was raised. Yeah.
Okay. How do you define or describe desire? What is that? When somebody says desire, or what is that?
Wow.
Yes. Oh, you got a lot more coming.
My goodness, I don't know if I was ready for this.
You aren't ready for this. That's what makes it fun.
Let's talk about nutrition.
Nope.
I define desire as kind of a deep longing, or the wanting to actually satisfy. I don't know, I guess fulfillment within yourself or within myself. Desiring, to me, is, I don't know how to describe it exactly.
It's hard. And where I go from that is, do you think this might not be an answer to this question. Mm-hmm. Is it more brain or body?
Well, I'm learning. I feel like it's both.
Because obviously it's both. If you know anything
Right.
about the brain and the body, yes.
Right.
But
Um,
kind of the pendulum type of thing.
yeah.
It's obviously both.
Yeah. I guess what I'm leaning into more is because I feel like my body is pretty unchangeable, right? In terms of the things that have happened to it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, is that if there is the ability to make changes in my brain, and I think, and I've know it is possible to make changes or to kind of open myself up a little bit. That's where I need to work from in that respect.
Well, my next question was, is it possible to manipulate, was the best word I could think of, desire? Can people manipulate desire, or is that just not even possible?
Well, I don't know if manipulates the word, but
Control?
I think people can contribute to desire.
Okay.
I think for me, like, it's about doing kind of, if you want to call it the work of like getting like past, all of those things that I was taught. And I'm not saying that they were all bad, but boy, it was so laced with guilt and shame. Sex is, shameful. You should feel guilty about it. It's really hard to link desire with something that you've been taught to be kind of so just negative, dirty, like all of these things, right? So, so can it change? Yes, I think it can change. I think there's a lot of for me, it's like I just have to rethink a lot of things.
So, my next question, what things have you found that can increase desire? Because I think this is helpful not only for people that have gone through cancer, but I think I think you fit into a lot of categories of people listening, and a lot of people definitely go through desire waning throughout their lives, and
I think it starts for me with like, what do I want? Like, really, like, do I, am I okay with just whatever the sex life we have and all of that, but also just like, what do I want, or can my body feel, pleasurable or pleasure,
well,
more
I think,
pleasure,
and we'll
desire?
get to that.
Okay.
But I think what I'm talking about is, when somebody does experience desire really waning, but wants desire. So they're not satisfied with where they're at. I'm talking about, if you found, desire is waning, is there things you can do about that? We talked about, you feel like you can control. What can you do?
I guess I just try to, for me, that's a great question. I wish I don't have a ton of desire to have, you know what I mean? I wish that would be something. That's one of those things that I think back about and go, like, I wish I had known, I was 26
We're gonna get to that too,
right? There's just, I didn't know that it would just be taken away in terms of.
So that's where, the pendulum of, where this sits, brain versus body, I think it's brain. I think it's very little body. I get the inputs to the brain, but that's hormonal for the most part. There's a few examples you have of its body, but it is still 90% brain.
Hormones, we screwed with all of those. We took all of those out.
But that's in the brain. Yes.
So, I guess when you say that, I don't want to feel like I have to figure this out, or like it's like I'm doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. That's what I guess, you know what I mean? I just feel like a lot of times, it's so easy to feel like you're broken, and I don't want to feel broken. I want to feel as whole as I can feel.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that I'm going to, feel like a lot of desire. I just don't, I just don't know that I haven't gotten there yet. Doesn't mean I won't get there, but for me, I found that I guess I feel like to make myself feel worse about something doesn't help.
No.
Right?
No, matter of fact,
it'll make it worse.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So our culture is just so, it's like, again, the messages to women are like, be like, calm and whatever, like, don't be like this sexual creature, but then be the sexual creature, like all of these things too. And I just can't, it's hard for me to I do believe, because of hormones and all the body stuff, for me to just really feel like, the desire is so strong.
So let's shift to pleasure.
Okay.
So now, what do you think where's the pendulum at pleasure-wise, brain, body? It's obviously both. We'll start there.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I guess I feel like it is both. I feel like I have less to work with because of my circumstances.
Because of specifically?
Because I think hormones are gone, and my breasts are gone too, like, which are a huge,
right.
So, but I do feel like it's much more possible to experience pleasure for me than it is to experience desire.
So that was my next question.
Yes.
Do you feel like you can control or have more say or can do, I don't know how to put that, pleasure over desire easier?
Oh, yeah. Right.
I kind of knew that before. But so what things have you found that can increase pleasure?
I think, again, just giving...
And I know this is a very individual question for people listening.
Giving yourself permission to think about what feels good, or it's about, like, for me, a lot of it is, that's where I feel like a lot of it is breaking out of, again, things I've been taught, the guilt, the shame, all of that kind of stuff. It's learning about your body. I mean, Emily Nagoski, right, who Come As You Are and all of those things. It's like, really, honestly, I'm 50 years old and I'm learning about my body still. That's not something that I was taught a lot about.
And it is that solely because it was not put in front of you. Like, obviously these podcasts that you listen to have somewhat opened up, like, whoa, and this is something I might try or can do. Mm-hmm. Before this, you just hadn't heard that. So it was an option?
Yeah, I think somewhat. I do think,
okay.
I will say I don't know who you guys listen to podcast-wise besides this one, but women are starting to talk about their themselves as sexual beings a lot more, and what, what they want.
And for sure, compared to 20 years ago, it's night and day.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Well, podcasts didn't exist, obviously, 20 years ago, but the content would have been considered X-rated.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even have been allowed to be on most forums of any kind back then.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. Kind of skipping around here, but... So, staying with the pleasure, do you feel like you know your body now and how to feel pleasure, or say it's on a 1 to 10 scale? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're just finding that out, or is it minute things at this point?
No, I feel like I don't know if you can make it a scale, but...
Well, I just to try to ask the question.
I know my body better than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that everything is always consistent. I think there's also a lot of trying to kind of connect pleasure and my headspace at the same time, like kind of keeping myself in a pleasurable state, I'm just learning all about that kind of stuff.
And what you've learned, I mean, are there specific recommendations? This isn't desire, this is pleasure, that you would say, hey, you're listening to this and they haven't listened to those podcasts or whatever. Mm-hmm. Are there specifics?
I mean, there are some things, like, for me...
Was there anything where you just went, no shit?
Well, for me, it's like... yeah, it's just about relaxing into things that help me stay focused on really what's happening with my body. Either in, when we're together or mm-hmm. even on my own, right? But just, like, recognizing that I have this voice in my head, this track in my head that sometimes I just need to go, stop, mm-hmm. Or... See,
I don't know. And that's why, I mean, I've learned a lot over the last probably just couple of years on listening to the same podcast. And I'm not going to say that doesn't happen to guys, because I think it absolutely does. But I don't. Yeah, on that one.
Yeah, I just think that's where, at least for me, it's all the things, especially like women, especially women with cancer talk a lot of times about things being painful, sex being painful. There was a point where it was painful for me, for us. It's not anymore. We've talked a little bit about, like, you just, need a good lubricant. You need some different things that way. But also headspace wise, for me, it's important to just kind of, like, clear my list out of my head and have, feel relaxed. And music and lighting and all of those things can help, and things. But I don't just, like, I don't feel like I just, like, turn on and go, yes, this is,
Well, I don't think you're unusual there.
No, I agree.
From, what the listening and watch or reading and that, for a guy, it is kind of 0 to 100 mm-hmm. as far as the desire or turning on or that. And I think that's unusual for a girl. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's unusual. I think the norm is, the pressing on the accelerator gently all day sometimes mm-hmm. to get to that same level. And yeah. And because I don't understand that, and it's not to say that a whole day of talking about something you might do or those kind of things doesn't for sure accelerate or take that up. But I think it's more of a necessity.
Well, I don't, but, to be honest, like, I also sometimes don't want to, like, talk about it all day long. It almost sometimes builds a pressure that I don't want, A
pressure?
Like, I don't know. It's just not, it's not my go-to to think about sex.
Well, that goes back to the desire part.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes when Ivy's got a crinkly toy.
This is going to be bad. Okay, so I think you've pretty much answered this, but just in case you want to add something. And I was going to ask, what are specifically the roadblocks or the restraints that limit desire or pleasure or anything? And I think you kind of led off with that. Mm-hmm. The past, the church, the raising. Obviously, the cancer can be a roadblock, or the treatments from cancer that you've had. Anything else?
No, I think that's plenty.
I know, yeah, for sure. So, can you remove a roadblock? Obviously, you can't on the treatment side of things in your body. But those other things, is it possible to remove them? Have people done it?
I think it's probably possible. I think for women with cancer, it's really, really hard.
Another thing.
It's another thing that's harder.
Yeah.
And again, there's also kind of this pervasive thing that, like, when you're living with cancer, that you should just be happy that you're alive. Kind of, and call it good.
Do you think it'll always be that way for you?
What do you mean? Just
be happy with being alive? Well, or are you farther from that
I'm farther from that now.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't take anything to head back there.
Right.
It would take.
One
we
test.
all know what that is, right? Like one test, and then you're right back there. And that's, I mean, for so many women, that's they don't even get to this point to be able to talk about like pleasure and desire and things when they're constantly managing just a state of health, right? Like,
for sure. I mean, you mentioned clearing the list, which is a roadblock for you,
sure,
right? A list, or talk about that a little bit.
Well, I just think, like, for me, just like things I have to do or things I've been putting off, or just knowing, just that, I don't know, that things are kind of done. You know, there's not like things hanging out there. It makes it a lot easier for me to then go, oh, I can think about this, or, you know. So.
Okay.
Boy, pen's out and everything.
But keeping track. What role does your husband play in increasing desire and or pleasure? I'm the interviewer. Do's and don'ts.
No.
Shit. All right. Okay, so what... And you did start to talk about this, but I kind of cut you off on purpose. Would you have done anything different at any point now? Like, some things are impossible, but treatment time, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, do you feel like, wow, if I would have known that, or if I would have done that, or if I would have whatever, can you be kind of pissed? Like, damn it.
Well, I will say, I mean, it's a question that gets asked to me quite often, because people who are diagnosed stage 4 from the get-go, which I was, they oftentimes don't do mastectomies now, or a double mastectomy. And again, people are freaked out about that. And I understand being freaked out about it. But
the patients.
Yeah. But I also go, if you can get through that, like, yeah, if I could still have my breasts, wow. Yeah. That would be.
Is that due to new medicine, though, compared to when you, or not? They're just different.
Well, they're just handling treatment different. They're heading first to like the hormonal treatments and things like that. So,
and in your case, they did chemo first before the.
Which even that was a
mastectomy.
little bit unusual to do chemo first. And the other thing I guess with that was that it just was so powerful to watch the tumor shrink.
Yes.
Like it was undetectable.
Huge.
So powerful. Such a big thing mind-wise.
Yeah, every time going in and for the next checkup and them saying, reduced by another millimeter or 2 millimeters, stuff is like, oh
it was
man,
gone.
that was
so,
huge.
So
and then it was gone.
Mm-hmm. So I mean that's a big one for me in terms of I can't second guess any treatment.
No, I'm not actually. No. I'm not saying second guessing. More like wow, if I would have known that.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing for me is just like I really do kind of, when I talk to women one-on-one, it is like, like consider this other side. And I do really want healthcare and women's health to go towards as whole as possible, right?
Yeah.
I just don't...
Consider the whole.
Consider the whole thing. I get it. We're fighting cancer, but we're human beings, and you're taking parts of people, and parts. You know what I mean? And then you don't feel whole anymore.
For sure.
In the same way, and I mean, if you want to keep adding to that, then our society says, oh, but you had reconstruction, so you're fine, or whatever, as if we make it look okay, so then it should be okay. But the changes within us, they're permanent. Like they're
for sure,
they're there. So.
And many people have maybe gone through other surgeries that you didn't. That definitely
for sure.
negatively affect.
Yeah, I mean,
this whole thing.
I didn't have my ovary. I didn't have a. Why am I drawing a blank? Hysterectomy of any kind, So a lot of people have that too. So.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we are definitely, those things definitely change, the timelines, especially when you're diagnosed really young. This is the other thing that I was, thinking about too, is that it's why it's so important also to consider when women are diagnosed younger that what we're dealing with is so different. Like, imagine being diagnosed right now if I was 50 or older, which is kind of the norm, right? I'd already be going through menopause. There's so many things that are just so different.
And it makes me wonder, this is, again, kind of off track here a little bit, that's fine. It does make me wonder, based on you and many others that were diagnosed at a young age, I wonder, because you haven't kept it secret how you feel about things in this, and I wonder if they take that into consideration, and the doctors who are doing those things, like, what are you leaving people with?
Well,
young people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been super involved in these conversations, I would love to be more involved in them. I feel like, especially having been through this for so long, I think it's also part of kind of just our healthcare system where, surgeons cut and, everybody does different things, right? And so it is sort of pieced, and there is kind of that forgetfulness of the whole person, right?
And I don't know medically, like in your case, would that have just been a horrible call to leave the breasts? I don't know that.
I don't know that.
Neither of us do.
Right.
We didn't really ask that question at the time because it was the life versus death,
right.
versus how is your life going to be. We didn't talk about it.
No, I agree. I mean,
but it needs to be part today, for sure. If it wasn't 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it needs to be today. Mm-hmm. And I don't know medically where that falls. But if you're telling me, there are some cases not even doing it at all, right? Mm-hmm. The mastectomy. So, yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that?
No. That was a little bit different than a career interview.
Yeah. We have more coming.
Okay. Well.
So, and I don't think there's a lot of, there's the Emily Nagowski and her podcast, mm-hmm. and others. I know there's others, mm-hmm. but to truly ask of a stage 4 cancer patient about that,
well,
there's not.
The other thing is, even with all of the podcasts and things we do listen to, it doesn't talk about like cancer
or any other diseases, really,
right? And how those affect that, or how they just.
Or they maybe do one on older people or something.
Right, or they'll talk about menopause, but menopause in your 40s and 50s. Like, mm-hmm. that's, not induced at 26.
So maybe, I hope this can be helpful to somebody listening out there. And obviously, you can ask questions, put those on there, and Heather would be glad to answer them for you.
Okay. Sounds good. Have a great week. We'll see you later.
Half week. Week's almost over. See ya.